Saturday evening. Matt Ray sitting in for Ken Matthews, taking your calls at 855-839-1210. Our guest this evening is Byron Henry. He's a Dallas-Fort Worth attorney and a constitutional scholar. We were discussing Ruth Bader Ginsburg's comments on Trump. Speaking of the presumptive nominee, Byron, I wanted to get your take on his vice presidential pick, Mike Pence, not so much the politics and how they're considered the odd couple there, but we've discussed in the past who Trump might be looking at as a Supreme Court nominee. Do you think this selection of Pence maybe throws a change in the recipe, if you will?
No, most of the people I've talked to and what I've read is Mike Pence is a solid but not a groundbreaking or shattering choice. He's not going to change the race tremendously. He's just a consolidation type candidate. Mike Pence is known as steady, conservative, and so I don't think it's going to change that view. Of course, Donald Trump's short list for potential Supreme Court nomination actually read like a who's who of conservative judicial conservative judges. I mean, most conservatives know every one of those judges. They know where they serve. A lot of them have a very strong conservative following. So Trump's judicial picks actually were a precursor to Mike Pence's selection because Governor Pence is a conservative, and it would be very similar to his pick as Governor Pence. These are all solid conservative jurists from across the country. The big thing about the pick for Governor Pence was that he's a Midwesterner, and Donald Trump's short list of potential Supreme Court picks included not only a number of state court justices, not just federal judges, but also about half of them were Midwesterners as well, and from the West, which was a difference. So it's really consistent with Donald Trump's view that a lot of the judges, individuals, citizens, and officials in flyover country in the Midwest are worth a look. And that's what he's confirmed both with his judicial list and his choice of Governor Pence to be his vice president.
On that judicial list, Trump did say at his a press conference today, he thanked evangelicals, said he couldn't have won without them, said he dominated with them. He said the religious voice has been taken away. He said we are going to change that. Anybody stand out on that short list of judicial picks that kind of aligns with that, or is it the same down the line?
Well, I think it's pretty much the same down the line. I mean, we had, just to mention one of our home state heroes here, Justice Don Willett, who is a rags to riches story, who worked in the Bush administration, and now he's a justice on the Texas Supreme Court and has been since Governor Rick Perry, former governor, nominated him in 2005. And he has basically stood out as a very independent conservative. Some would say even he has a libertarian streak in him. And he is one of the surprises on the list. Speaking of the comments by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice Willett is also well known for being a heavy Twitter user. He has thousands and thousands of followers, which is very odd for a Supreme Court justice, but he's very well known, especially in Texas and throughout the country, from his Twitter account. So that's just one justice on the list, but he's very solid in the conservative bank, as well as possibly got a libertarian streak, as I said, very strong on religious freedom, cherishes it, and basically believes that the religious freedom in the First Amendment, the reason that it's in the First Amendment is because religious freedom is one of the first principles that this country was founded upon, and most of the judges on that list, including Justice Willett, we would expect to protect it dearly.
What on the Clinton side of the aisle, what do we know about her choices?
We don't know a whole lot because she has mentioned that it might be someone more liberal than Merrick Garland, who is more of a he's definitely left of center, but certainly not a liberal star on the rise, such as Kamala Harris, who's the Attorney General of California, as an African-American judge on the Ninth Circuit, Paul Watford, who's actually drawn a lot of attention. So what we're looking at probably, if Hillary Clinton becomes president and the Senate remains Republican, there will be a check on her ability to nominate somebody that basically is considered a liberal star on the rise. But if the Senate goes Democrat in the election, then it's a no-holds-barred situation that she could nominate just about anyone she wants, someone young and very liberal. So really the key to her ability to select judges would be what happens to the Senate in the election. But I would say her inclination would be to select probably someone that was on President Obama's short list before he selected Merrick Garland. And those are all very well-known liberal judges throughout the country. most of them federal judges from the Ninth Circuit and the D.C. Circuit.
Merrick Garland, what do you make of that choice by the president? Obviously, he's had support from both sides of the aisle. I mean, what did you make of it when you saw it?
Well, take the politics out of it for just a second, and let's just look at him as a nominee. He is probably one of the most respected jurists in the country. He is solid. He's a great father, a great husband, a great community servant. He is an exemplary citizen and human being, basically impeccable credentials. There's really not a knock against him, except that he is left of center, and it's questionable how he would attack the issues of gun rights if he was a Supreme Court justice, or because he worked in the executive branch, whether or not he would check the president and the executive of either party appropriately, which is the job of the Supreme Court, to be a check on powers of Congress and the president with respect to the Constitution. But as far as qualifications, Chief Judge Garland is at the top of just about anybody's list in the country. It's just a matter of, one, late in a hotly fought campaign year, the Senate didn't want to tip the balance of the court for a political reason. And two, there's a lot of unknowns about Judge Garland on a lot of hot-button issues such as abortion, gun rights, religious freedom, and separation of powers that I think the Republican Congress or the Senate was just not willing to take a chance on this close to an election.
I wonder what happens if Clinton wins. I mean, I wonder where Congress goes from there.
Well, I've been asked that, and my opinion is Congress has pretty much laid down the law, the Senate has, that there will not be a vote this year. Even if Merrick Garland is the best choice that the Republicans could hope from a Democratic president, he's an older gentleman, which means he wouldn't be on the court. His length of tenure would probably be closer to the 15 to 20 years as opposed to the 25 to 35 years for a younger nominee. There's no reason if President Clinton wins, you would think you would get a better nominee from a Republican standpoint, but they have drawn the line in the sand and said that the next president should nominate the next justice. And if they're going to be true to that conviction and stand on that principle and be consistent, then they would need to allow Merrick Garland's nomination to languish, to cease at the end of the year, and allow the new president, whoever that may be, to make a new nomination.
I enjoy picking your brain. Byron Henry, Dallas-Fort Worth attorney with Scheef Stone, also a constitutional scholar. He joins us from time to time here on WPHT. Thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us late on a Saturday night. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, 855-839-1210 is the number. He's the guy I go to when I have questions about the Supreme Court. Just amazing that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the notorious RBG,